you guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here. My name's Katie and I want to talk about things that you need to know before getting into wedding photography. Things that I think people don't talk about enough when getting into wedding photography. And this video is not meant to scare you out of becoming a wedding photographer at all. I hope you watch this video and it makes you more excited to be a wedding photographer, but I just think the realities of being a wedding photographer are real, and like I said, I don't think people talk about it enough. So if you are looking into getting into wedding photography, this is what I think you need to know before you start. The first thing is that the market is very saturated. In my area, there are tons of photographers, wedding photographers, so I mean there is a lot of competition. I hate to use that word. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just want to point out that there are a lot of photographers out there, a lot of wedding photographers. So it's not like you're going to be the only one getting consistent business. It is a little bit more difficult because there are so many options for people to go to, I guess. At least in the area that I live in a suburb of a city, and so I know there are so many other photographers in my area. So if somebody doesn't go with me, there's like 50 other photographers that they could go with. Again, this shouldn't completely deter you from being a wedding photographer. I just want people to know going into it that there are a lot of other alternatives to you. But obviously you are your business, like I am my brand. People book with me, yes, because I have pretty photos, they like my editing, they like my photography style, but they ultimately book with me because of my personality and maybe our consult call, like we vibe and we get along, they like what I offer, they hear good things, you know, they read reviews or, you know, word of mouth from other people. People had good experiences with me, so they're booking with me, so there's never gonna be another you. You are the reason people book with you. But there are a lot of alternatives and a lot of other wonderful photographers. I'm a firm believer in community over competition. Like, I don't view other photographers as a competition, but like I said, broken record here for a minute, this isn't to deter you from becoming a wedding photographer just because the market's very saturated. It's just something that you should know getting into it so you can be prepared, because depending on where you live, there might be a lot of other alternatives in wedding photography. The second thing is that wedding photography is both physically and mentally exhausting. I cannot tell you what the exhaustion feels like at the end of a day, like at the end of a wedding day. The adrenaline keeps you going the whole day, and then for me, once I sit in my car and I'm on my way home, my body just like melts. It is very, very physically, you know, demanding. You're on your feet the whole time. I'm not even talking about if you carry your gear, how much gear you have, but like you're on your feet photographing people basically for 8 hours or just all day. Then on top of that, it's mentally exhausting because you have to pose people, you have to make sure you're on time, you have to be creative in your posing or your flat lay details. Like, there's a lot that goes into wedding photography. So definitely, if you are getting into wedding photography, invest in comfortable shoes because your feet will fall off if you don't. It's, again, not trying to scare you, it's just something that is reality when it comes to being a wedding photographer. You have to be able to keep up through that day. And I'm not in the best shape of my life. I have been photographing weddings in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy, and it is really difficult. I don't think people talk about how exhausting wedding photography is, especially if you are photographing for like 8 to 10 hour days. It's so rewarding at the same time. I feel like I'm telling you, here's something bad, but it's so good. Like, it is so rewarding. And like I said, I feel like the adrenaline and the excitement of the wedding keeps you going throughout the day, but definitely like that evening and the next day, the recovery, you need a recovery routine. Like I said, I just want you to know that it is very physically demanding as well as mentally exhausting because you have to be on all day and you have to be thinking of poses and settings on your camera. Some things are second nature on wedding day, so I don't really think about my settings. I just like know what to do at this point. Like, I know when I'm doing family photos or bridal party, like I know my settings at this point. So that's not like, I'm not thinking about that all the time, but most of the time it's posing, it's finding lighting, it's all of that stuff. So just wanted to let you know that it is both physically and mentally exhausting. The third thing is that you have to be able to take charge. So like I said, with posing and lighting, you have to be able to direct people and take charge of the day and tell people what to do. Like, you need to be a little bit demanding almost, and not in a mean way. Like, you don't have to be like demanding in a mean way at all. It's really, you need to be able to direct people, because if you are not going to be the one to direct people, like, things are not going to get done in a timely manner, or, you know, there's going to be some confusion here. A huge thing is like family photos, right? You have to be able to tell family members, okay, you're in, you're out, you know, like, do all your combinations, and you have to be able to take charge of that situation, because if you don't, family photos will take forever, and it will be a confusing time because, oh, are we in here? Oh, I don't know, you know, if you take a very laissez-faire approach. So I'm not saying you have to be like this authority, like, you don't have to be mean about it at all. You just need to be able to take charge and tell people what to do. And you have to be like vocal about that. And I'm saying this as somebody who's very quiet and normally very introverted. It really took a few weddings before I got comfortable with that part. And so I'm saying, if you're like me, I totally sympathize, and you can do it. It just takes practice, and you just kind of have to like make yourself do it and make yourself become a bit more, I don't want to say confrontational, but a little confrontational with people. You have to be able to take charge. It makes your job a lot easier. It gets everyone on the same page, and like, your couple really appreciates it. Because I mean, I know a lot of couples have said when it comes to family photos, wow, that was great, that was so easy. More of my like recent couples, when I was first starting out, they probably didn't feel that way. Definitely being able to take charge on a wedding day and like make sure your job is getting done is essential. Another thing you need to know before becoming a wedding photographer is you may have to deal with difficult people or situations. Knock on wood, have not had super difficult situations, but you know, when you get that many people on a wedding day, there might be difficult people. There might be somebody who wants to make the day about them, or a wedding coordinator. I've had wedding coordinators overstep when it comes to photography. I literally had a wedding coordinator start posing people for me, and I was like, no, that's fine. Like, I'll pose them, you know, like please don't. You definitely have people who overstep, and maybe they're not intentionally trying to be difficult people. They might genuinely think they're being helpful. You have to have some sort of emotional intelligence in dealing with those situations, because you cannot be mean. My response to those situations is a reflection on myself and my brand, so I want to represent myself well at weddings. So I'm not going to be, you know, snippy at people. I'm not going to be like, no, go away. Or, you know, I'm not going to be mean to anybody, because I'm not that kind of person. And also, it's a reflection on my brand and myself, trying to be professional. So you just need to know how to, like I said, have emotional intelligence when dealing with difficult people or situations, and remain calm. I think that's a big one of the biggest things is just remaining calm during those situations. Obviously, if you feel like you're in danger, or, you know, uncomfortable with certain situations, if somebody is being inappropriate with me to the point where I am uncomfortable or feel unsafe, I'm going to get out of that situation. And I'm not going to care if I come across as a little rude. So I'm just going to get out of that situation, you know. So if you're in one of those situations, like, this advice doesn't really apply. I think as a photographer, especially like a woman photographer, sometimes you're put in a situation that you can be unsafe, and I would rather get out of that situation and maybe come across a little harsh than try to be nice and professional and be in an unsafe situation. So I'm more talking about, you know, maybe somebody is a little rude to you, you don't clap back, and you just be professional and you take the high road. Fifth thing is that the investment to become a wedding photographer is a little bit hefty. You need the right gear, you need the memory cards and flashes and a camera bag and maybe a dual camera strap, and what else? A website maybe? Gallery delivery software? Like, any photographer, the investment up front, it can be hefty for a lot of people. But I think for wedding photography, I invest a lot more. And not to say that you have to have the fanciest equipment. If you've been on my channel for a minute, you know that I fully believe it's the photographer that makes the photo, not the equipment. I do not have the newest equipment. I don't, because it's so expensive, but you do need to invest in good equipment, like high quality equipment. Obviously, no one is gonna hire you to show up with your iPhone to take pictures. I say that now, and maybe in like a few years that will be a thing because of technological advancements or whatever, but as it stands right now, you know, you need to invest in a nice camera, memory cards, backup memory cards, all of that stuff. So it can be expensive to start a photography business. Like I said, not to scare you, just to try to be honest and upfront and let you know, hey, you know, it might cost you some money. Yes, the earning potential for weddings is great, but you know, an upfront investment is just reality. Like, you have to have a camera, and in order to be a photographer, that investment is very real. The last thing is that weddings are high stakes. I don't think you don't know that. Usually there's no redo, there's no do-over. I think, you know, with like engagement sessions or family photos, I mean, they're higher stakes, but if something happens, I can always offer a free session again. Weddings, you can't do that because they're not gonna redo their wedding. So it is higher stakes, which is totally fine. I used to be very, very intimidated by that. Like, there's no do-over, like it's scary, and it is, and you should take it seriously and prepare as best that you can. You know, that is the smart, responsible thing to do. So of course, like, take it seriously. I just like people to know that it is a serious thing. There are no do-overs. A lot of couples put a lot of money and time into planning a wedding. So if you are looking to capture it, like, take it seriously. I like to be realistic when I give, you know, advice to people. It's not easy to be a wedding photographer. At the end of the day, there's no do-overs for weddings. So the stakes are pretty high, and if that is a concern for you, I would really take some time and reflect on if you want to get into wedding photography. At the end of the day, it's so rewarding to be a wedding photographer. It really, really is. I'm not trying to scare you with everything that I mentioned before. It brings me so much joy to serve my couples in this way. Like, I genuinely love every single one of my couples, and you get something out of it too. I mean, they get photos and, you know, that experience, but you get something out of it. I get so much joy in capturing weddings. I love seeing my couples, you know, post on social media how much they love their photos. Like, I love giving my couples photos they love. Being a wedding photographer is one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, and so I don't want to scare you into not being a wedding photographer if this is your dream. It is incredibly rewarding. It's a wonderful career path, but I want you to be informed of some things that I believe you should know getting into wedding photography, because then you can make a more educated decision on whether or not this is for you. I don't think wedding photography is for everyone, just like I don't think family photography is for everyone. Just because wedding photography may not be for you doesn't mean something else can't be. And just because you're not a wedding photographer doesn't mean that you're not a successful photographer. That is all I have for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!